I never thought my son's 16th birthday would turn into a family showdown, but I guess that's what happens when you let toxic people push you too far. I'm Sarah Mitchell, 35, single mom to my amazing son Jason. For 16 years, I've poured every ounce of love and energy into raising him, working double shifts as a nurse, missing sleep to help with school projects, and somehow making it to every single baseball game, all while my husband's family pretended I didn't exist. My sister-in-law, Diana, has always been the perfect one in the family's eyes. She married rich, lives in a massive house, and reminds everyone at every opportunity that she used to be a kindergarten teacher before becoming a full-time mom. The fact that I work full-time while raising Jason has always been her favorite thing to criticize. Children need a constant presence at home, she'd say at family gatherings, casting meaningful glances my way. It's so sad when they have to raise themselves. I'd always bite my tongue, reminding myself that Jason knew the truth. He knew who packed his lunches with little notes inside, who taught him to ride a bike, who stayed up all night when he had the flu. But today, at his 16th birthday party, Diana finally went too far. I'd spent weeks planning this party. Jason wanted something special, not just family, but his friends too. I transformed our modest backyard into a teenager's dream, with fairy lights strung across the fence, a professional DJ sit-up, thanks to months of overtime, and enough food to feed an army. Most importantly, I'd arranged for Jason's father, my ex-husband Mark, to fly in from California for the occasion. Everything was going perfectly until dinner. Jason was beaming, surrounded by his friends and family, looking handsome in the new button-down shirt he picked out himself. Mark sat across from me, and for once, we were managing to be civil. Then Diana clinked her glass, standing up with that familiar self-satisfied smile. "I'd like to make a toast," she announced, her voice carrying across the yard. "To my beloved nephew on his 16th birthday." I took a sip of water, expecting the usual gushing about how proud we all were. Instead, Diana launched into what seemed like a prepared speech about her role in Jason's life. "You know, when Jason was little, I practically raised him myself," she declared, making my hand freeze midway to my mouth. "All those days I picked him up from school, all those weekends at my house, all those times I was there when his mother was working." The way she said working made it sound like I'd been out partying instead of keeping a roof over our heads. I felt my face flush as heads turned toward me, including several of Jason's friends' parents who didn't know our family dynamics. I remember teaching him to read, helping with his homework, taking him to his first day of kindergarten. Diana continued, each word a deliberate knife. "I've always thought of him as one of my own children." My mind raced through memories. I was the one who taught Jason to read using secondhand Dr. Seuss books during my lunch breaks. I was the one who'd walked him to his first day of kindergarten, fighting back tears as he bravely marched into the classroom. Diana had picked him up exactly twice from school, both times when I'd been stuck in emergency surgeries at the hospital. I looked at Mark, expecting him to say something to correct his sister's blatant lies. But he just sat there, uncomfortable but silent, just like he had during our marriage when Diana would overstep. To Jason, Diana raised her glass higher, who's grown into such a wonderful young man thanks to the loving guidance of his family. The emphasis on family was clear. She meant her family, not me. People started clapping, including my former mother-in-law, who was nodding along as if everything Diana said was gospel truth. I felt my eyes burning with angry tears. 16 years of being belittled, 16 years of having my role as a mother diminished, 16 years of staying quiet for the sake of peace. And now this woman was trying to take credit for my son's entire childhood. But before I could say anything, Jason stood up. My sweet, usually quiet boy pushed back his chair and walked into the house without a word. Diana's triumphant smile faltered slightly as confused murmurs rippled through the guests. "He's probably just emotional," Diana said quickly. "You know how teenagers are." Then Jason returned, carrying something that made my heart skip a beat. The large leather-bound photo album I'd meticulously maintained since his birth. Every important moment, every milestone, every memory carefully preserved and annotated. "Actually, Aunt Diana," Jason's voice was calm but carried clearly across the suddenly silent yard, "I think it's time we looked at some old pictures. You know, to remind everyone exactly how things really happened." Diana's face went pale as Jason placed the album on the table and opened it to the first page. The truth was about to come out, and for once I wasn't going to stop it. "This is me on my first day of kindergarten," Jason began, his finger pointing to a photo of himself in an oversized backpack, standing next to me in my nurse's scrubs. I'd taken the morning shift that day so I could walk him to school. Mom woke up at 4 a.m. to make my favorite breakfast and pack a special lunch before her shift. "See the note she wrote? I still have it." Diana shifted uncomfortably in her chair. "Well, of course, your mother was there for some moments, but..." "And here's me learning to read," Jason continued, flipping the page. The photo showed us curled up on our old secondhand couch, a stack of books beside us. I remembered taking that selfie after Jason had read his first complete sentence. Mom used to bring home a new book every Friday, no matter how tight money was. We called it our Friday reading adventure. My mother-in-law cleared her throat. Diana also helped with his reading. I distinctly remember. "Actually, Grandma," Jason's voice took on an edge I'd never heard before. "There's something interesting about these photos. Mom dated and labeled every single one. And she wrote down who was there and what was happening." He turned to a section labeled School Events and pointed to a photo of his first grade play. "See? Mom's the one in the back, still in her hospital uniform because she came straight from work. Aunt Diana, you're not in any of these pictures because you weren't there." The yard had gone completely silent. Even the teenagers, usually glued to their phones, were watching with rapt attention. Diana's husband suddenly seemed very interested in his napkin. "But what about all those weekends at my house?" Diana protested, her voice rising. "All those times I took care of you." Jason calmly turned to another section of the album. "You mean these 3 weekends?" He pointed to a small cluster of photos. "When Mom had mandatory hospital training, she called me every night, remember? And she cried because she missed me so much." Mark finally spoke up, his voice quiet. "Diana, maybe you should." "No." Diana stood up, her chair scraping against the patio. "This is ridiculous. I was there. I was always there. What about all the baseball games?" Jason's smile was gentle but firm as he turned to the sports section of the album. Dozens of photos showed him in various baseball uniforms through the years, and in almost every action shot, you could spot me in the background, sometimes in scrubs, sometimes in my regular clothes, but always there. "Mom never missed a game," Jason said. "She switched shifts, used vacation days, whatever it took. The only time you came, Aunt Diana, was for the championship game last year. You left early because your daughter had a dance recital." Diana's face had gone from pale to red. This is just photos. Photos can be manipulated. They don't tell the whole story." "You're right," Jason agreed, and for a moment, Diana looked triumphant. Then he continued, "Photos don't show how Mom would help me with homework over her dinner break, calling from the hospital cafeteria. They don't show her teaching me to ride a bike in the empty hospital parking lot at 6 a.m., because that's when her shift ended. They don't show her sewing my Halloween costumes at midnight or making homemade soup when I was sick." He turned to face his aunt directly. "They also don't show how you told me Mom was selfish for working instead of staying home. Or how you said she was just a nurse while you had a real teaching career. Or how you tried to convince Dad to sue for full custody because Mom's schedule was unstable." Mark choked on his drink. "She what?" I felt tears rolling down my cheeks, but this time they weren't from anger or hurt. My son, my beautiful brave son, was standing up not just for himself, but for me. All those years of Diana's subtle digs and manipulations were finally being exposed. "I kept quiet all these years because Mom asked me to," Jason said, his voice carrying across the yard. "She said it was important to maintain family harmony. She said you were still my aunt and I should respect you. But I'm 16 now, and I think it's time for the truth." He closed the album gently. "Every photo in here tells a story, not just about what happened, but about who was really there, who really raised me, who really cared. And that person is my mom." The silence that followed was deafening. Diana stood frozen, her perfect mask finally cracking. My former mother-in-law looked like she'd swallowed something sour. And Mark was staring at the album with an expression I'd never seen before, shame mixed with realization. Diana stormed out of the party with her husband trailing behind her, but not before hissing, "This isn't over, Sarah." For once, her threat didn't bother me. The truth was finally out, and no amount of manipulation could change that. What happened next surprised me even more than Jason's brave stand. Mark stood up, cleared his throat, and addressed the party guests. "I think we should give the birthday boy and his mom a moment alone," he announced, ushering people toward the front yard. "There's an ice cream truck coming in 15 minutes, my treat for everyone." As our guests filtered out, offering supportive smiles and quiet congratulations to Jason, I sat there trying to process everything that had just happened. My son slid into the chair next to me, the photo album still open between us. "I'm sorry if I ruined the party, Mom," he said softly. I pulled him into a hug, not caring that teenage boys usually found public displays of affection embarrassing. "You didn't ruin anything, sweetie." "But why didn't you ever tell me you knew about all those things?" Deanna said. Jason shrugged, looking older than his 16 years. "I heard her talking to Dad on the phone when I was 12 about the custody thing. After that, I started paying attention to how she treated you. It made me so angry, but you always worked so hard to keep the peace. I thought that's what you wanted." "I wanted to protect you," I admitted. "I thought if I made waves, it would only make things harder for everyone." "Mom," Jason said, giving me that look teenagers reserve for parents who just don't get it, "you don't need to protect me anymore. Sometimes I need to protect you too." Before I could respond, Mark returned. He stood awkwardly by the table, looking at the photo album. "I had no idea Deanna tried to get me to sue for custody," he said. "Why didn't you tell me, Sarah?" "Would you have believed me?" I asked honestly. His silence was answer enough. After a moment, he sat down and started flipping through the album. "I missed so much," he murmured, pausing at a photo of Jason's 10th birthday, another celebration I'd organized alone. "Diana always said you were doing fine, that you had everything under control, that you didn't need or want help. And you believed her instead of asking me directly," I finished for him. Mark nodded, shame evident on his face. "I'm sorry, Sarah. And I'm sorry, Jason. I should have been here more. Should have seen what was really happening." Just then, my former mother-in-law appeared at the table. She'd been unusually quiet during the whole photo album revelation, and now I could see why. She was holding her own album. "I found this when I was cleaning last month," she said, placing it on the table. "I was going to show it at Christmas, but..." She opened it to reveal photos I'd never seen before. Pictures she'd taken of me and Jason over the years without my knowledge. Me pushing him on the swings at the park after a night shift, still in my scrubs. Me helping him with a science project on our front porch. Me cheering at his baseball games. "I always knew," she said quietly. "I knew Diana was wrong about you, Sarah. I was just too much of a coward to stand up to her. It was easier to go along, to keep the peace. But seeing these pictures again, seeing how much you sacrificed for Jason, I'm ashamed of myself." "I think we all are," Mark added. Jason reached over and squeezed my hand. "Accept me," he said firmly. "I've always been proud of my mom." The sound of the ice cream truck's jingle drifted in from the front yard, along with the excited chatter of teenagers. My son's 16th birthday hadn't gone anything like I planned. But maybe it had gone exactly the way it needed to. "We should get back to your party," I said, standing up. "Your friends are waiting." "In a minute," Jason replied, pulling out his phone. "First, I want to take a new photo for the album. One where everyone knows the truth." He set up his phone and used the timer, gathering us all around the table with both albums open in front of us. Just before the shutter clicked, he whispered, "Best birthday ever, Mom." Later that night, after the party was over and the guests had gone home, I added that final photo to the album. Under it, I wrote the date in a simple caption, "The day the truth came out," and a new chapter began. Diana still isn't speaking to us, but that's okay. Sometimes silence is better than toxic words. Mark calls Jason more often now, and my mother-in-law comes over for dinner once a week, usually bringing old photos she's found. As for me, I finally understand that keeping the peace isn't always the right thing to do. Sometimes you need to let the truth come out, even if it makes waves. And sometimes those waves wash away the dirt to reveal something beautiful underneath, like a mother's love, documented one photo at a time.